Exposed. 15 spine-chilling, sinister, true stories from the haunted depths of Reddit. The suburban charm of Chicago hid terror beneath its picturesque veneer. Whispers of fear tickled the back of Rebecca's mind as she stepped into her modest home after a grueling night shift at the local hospital. The door, just slightly ajar, made her stomach drop. She peered inside, feeling her heart race. Was it the wind that pushed it open, or something more sinister? The shadows in the corners felt alive, and her skin prickled with a chill. As she closed the door and locked it, panic rippled beneath the surface of her normal life. Days turned to nights filled with sleepless dread. Strange noises, thumps, and shuffles behind the walls clung to her like a heavy fog. It wasn't just paranoia, it was something darker creeping into their world. The neighbors, smiles plastered on their faces, now watched her, eyes lingering as if she was being assessed, their curious gazes unnerving her. "Don't be ridiculous," she told herself, but the anxious pulsations in her chest said otherwise. Then came Mia, her daughter, pulling away. The normally vibrant girl spent hours in her room, her laughter replaced with hushed murmurs about ominous online warnings of a lurking predator zeroing in on suburban families. Rebecca's heart sank. The internet was full of horrors, but this felt personal. Clenching her fist, she made her way to the authorities, only to be met with condescending smiles, dismissing her fears. "Paranoia is contagious, ma'am," they'd chuckled, sending Rebecca home in a whirlwind of frustration. Her safe haven felt anything but, shrouded in shadows just waiting to pounce. The local summer festival buzzed with excitement, corn sizzling on grills, laughter spilling from every corner. But Rebecca's heart pounded like a war drum. Mia slipped away, swallowed by the crowd. Panic surged like a tidal wave as she rushed through the festivities, yelling her daughter's name. Faces blurred past her, eager for entertainment, while she plunged deeper into a nightmare. And then she heard it, the laughter. Faint yet familiar, the sound slipped into her ears like a whisper in the dark. It could only belong to Mia, but there was something not quite right about it. The festival's mirth transformed into a sinister tableau. As Rebecca raced through throngs of oblivious festival-goers, her stomach twisted at the sight of her neighbors, their faces morphing into blank masks hiding secrets. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Strange connections began writing themselves in her mind. Had the shimmering smiles of the neighbors always masked something more sinister? Her insights tangled together like vines strangling a tree. Then came a chilling message on her phone. "You're watching, but are you prepared to see the truth?" Fear gripped her like ice. The echoes of Mia's laughter huddled at the edges of her consciousness, a haunting melody drawing her further into darkness. Rebecca stood there, heart racing, teetering on the edge of risk and revelation. Could she trust her own community? Or had she already been ensnared by its subtle snares? The line between safety and danger blurred as she faced the question, how far would a mother go to find her child? Time slipped away as she took the first step into the unknown, ready to confront whatever lingered beneath the surface of her once peaceful life. She darted through the sea of bodies, each stranger's face a potential threat, every jovial laugh rigged with malice. The message on her phone pulsed in the back of her mind, intertwining with the jumble of frantic thoughts. You're watching. Who was watching? And why? A cacophony of voices blurred together around her, but one voice cut through the noise. A sweet, high-pitched giggle, unmistakable. "Mia!" She strained to peer into the throngs, searching for the familiar shock of her hair. Then she spotted her. The laughter was coming from a shadowy corner, away from the festivities. "Mia!" Rebecca shrieked, breaking through the crowd, her own voice a gasp of desperation. But Mia didn't respond. Instead, she stood with her back turned, her small frame silhouetted by flickering lights like a puppet in the hands of dark forces. As Rebecca moved closer, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Mia's laughter danced eerily on the air, weaving a web of fear. The neighbors, now coming into clearer focus, wore unsettling expressions. Eyes glinted with a shared secret. Mouths curled up in wide smiles that felt wrong. "Mia!" she called again, closer now, her heart hammering against her ribs. Panic gripped her as she reached out for her daughter, her fingers brushing against something cold and unyielding, a slick, shadowy form. It recoiled, and for a fleeting moment the cheerful faces of her neighbors warped into something grotesque. Her breath caught in her throat. "Mama, watch!" Mia giggled again, but didn't turn. The sound held an unnatural quality, echoing against the laughter of the festival. It felt like a siren call, sweet yet sinister. "Mia, you need to leave!" Rebecca pleaded, her voice trembling. But every step she took was met with pressure pushing her back, as if the crowd pulled at her like a riptide. There was no one around her. A wall of unity among the neighbors stood firm like an insurmountable fortress. "Come on, Mama," Mia coaxed. Her voice now had a musical lilt, taunting, "Join us." Desperation warped into terror. It felt like the floor beneath her was crumbling, and she could barely stand as a cold sweat trickled down her back. How could her vibrant girl be so lost among these grotesque figures? No more self-doubt. Rebecca surged forward, shoving past bodies. "Let her go!" she shouted, but her words slipped into the churning laughter. Then, just as she reached for Mia again, the darkness shifted. With her back to her mother, Mia's hand stretched out toward the neighbors. In their faces, enormous grins twisted like they were absorbing something light and innocent. "Mia!" Her scream ripped through the night, desperate and raw. But Mia turned. For the first time, Rebecca saw her daughter's eyes, and they were wide, glassy, devoid of recognition. A chilling current coursed through the air, and with it an overwhelming realization. Her daughter was not just ensnared, she was changing. "Mia!" Rebecca lunged forward, shaking with fear. But the crowd began to close in, surrounding her with an impenetrable mass, laughter growing deafening. The world felt unnaturally vibrant, colors sharp and vivid, shadows shifting ever closer, threatening to envelop them both. Then a single voice broke through, low and haunting. "You've wandered into our territory, Rebecca, and now you must choose." Heart pounding, Rebecca took a shaky breath, gripping the fabric of reality that threatened to unravel. In that haunting moment, she understood the chilling truth was more primal than she'd ever imagined. How far was she willing to go? For the truth? Or for Mia? As the laughter crescendoed around her, she felt the pull of darkness, the ancient ties of wrongness binding her. Time dragged as she faced a dreadful decision. Would she plunge deeper into this horror? Or would she fight back against the very thing that threatened to claim her child? The moment hung in the air, the festival fading, shadows stretching, enveloping all they touched. What would Rebecca choose? The laughter echoed, and it only grew louder. The laughter rippled like water disturbed by a stone, and Rebecca's heart raced. The shadows crowded in closer, dark and pulsating, feeding on the growing chaos. She could see Mia's small frame caught in the thrall of the neighbors, her daughter poised between innocence and an encroaching darkness that felt alive. "Choose!" the voice hissed, weaving through the laughs and mocking her turmoil. Time stretched sickeningly, each heartbeat drumming with urgency and despair. "Mia!" she cried again, the sound tearing at her throat. Each syllable was a plea, a desperate gasp against the rising tide of horror. But Mia stood transfixed, eyes vacant, seemingly unaware of the growing dread surrounding her. Rebecca stood on the precipice of panic, grappling with the sinister reality that moment by moment twisted in front of her. The neighbors, once friendly faces from past barbecues and school events, morphed into grotesque caricatures, their smiles hideous and filled with a twisted delight. What secret were they sharing? What dark ritual had they drawn Mia into? With another surge of determination, Rebecca shoved through the mass of bodies. The laughter prickled at her. Skin, a chilling caress. She could almost taste the despair in the air, like iron, metallic and thick. "Mia!" Tears streamed down her face, fueled by fear. She threaded her way through the throng, each step a battle as invisible fingers tugged at her, pulling her back, whispering threats of surrender. And then, in a split second that felt like an eternity, Rebecca lost sight of her daughter. A heartbeat of panic surged through her as the laughter faded into a hushed whisper. "Mama?" The voice was softer now, glimmering with a haunting familiarity. Rebecca's heart clawed in her chest, raw and desperate. "Mia, where are you?" Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her attention. To her left, in the darkest corner of the gathering, she spotted Mia crouched on the ground. The flickering festival lights cast a sickly glow over her figure, revealing the twisted faces of the neighbors shifted into predatory anticipation. They seemed to pulsate with a hunger. "Mia!" Rebecca lunged forward, limbs heavy with dread. But the crowd roared back, a violent wave threatening to drown her. She could feel their presence tightening around her, like shadows stretching to consume the last glimmers of light. "Mama, help!" The plea quivered in the air, desperate and wretched. Rebecca pushed harder, her breath quickening, as if each gasp of air was tinged with 1,000 screams. She collided with the throng, fingers clawing at flesh, faces becoming a blur of distorted smiles and jeering eyes. Mia's form grew clearer, and in that split moment of clarity, Rebecca saw the change. Her daughter's skin rippled unnaturally, and her laughter morphed into something that sent shivers down Rebecca's spine. What had these neighbors done? What hold did they have over her? "Mia, please, come to me!" Finally breaking through the wall of bodies, Rebecca reached for Mia, but as her fingers grazed her daughter's shoulder, it felt like grasping smoke, insubstantial and fleeting. "Mama, it's fun!" Mia's voice danced in the air, unchecked delight tainted by something dark. Her small body twisted as her smile widened uncomfortably, revealing teeth sharper than they should be. A shock of horror shot through Rebecca. "No, this isn't you!" The laughter surged back, surrounding her like a storm. An angry wind whipped around, tangible and sharp, and shadows clawed at her vision. It was closing in, dragging her toward an abyss beyond the festivity, beyond the people who smiled without humanity. In that heartbeat of despair, Rebecca knew this was more than just a choice. The very essence of her child hung in the balance, caught in the throes of malevolence. "Mama, it's so much fun!" She felt the ground shift beneath her feet, the carnival lights flickering, and a sinister chant wove through the air, enticing and horrific. Would she sacrifice everything for Mia, or would she let the darkness reclaim what she loved most? In that moment, a choir of voices surrounded her, echoing the choice they craved. The weight of her decision hung like a noose, ready to tighten around them. And then, as quickly as it began, the laughter twisted into a single chilling question. "What will you sacrifice, Rebecca?" The darkness shifted once more, and Rebecca felt the pulse of something ancient and hungry. "Mama, it's so much fun!" Mia's voice echoed around Rebecca, twisting in her ears, and each word felt like a dagger aimed at her heart. The neighbors closed in, their expressions warped into a grotesque mask of hunger. Rebecca shook her head, fighting through the thickening despair. "No, you don't understand, my baby." She pushed against the crowd, her body screaming in protest, desperate to reach Mia. The air seemed thicker now, suffocating, coiling around her like a serpent winding tighter. The shadows moved, writhing closer, almost eager to feel her surrender. They whispered secrets in cold tones, promises of freedom and power, but all Rebecca could sense was a deep, gnawing dread. She wouldn't let them take Mia, not like this. "Mia!" The name slipped from her lips, raw and frayed. But the reply was more laughter, swirling like a tempest. The neighbors laughed as one organism, a monstrous choir of delight, their faces flickering with mocking glee under the faint light. In that chaos, Mia turned toward her, but her small eyes were vacant, filled with shadows that twisted and churned inside her. "Mama, I'm happy. Please." Rebecca stumbled forward, cradling her hands over her ears, trying to drown out the laughter, the chant that grew louder, echoing round and round, forming a storm. "You don't have to stay. Come to me." As she reached out again, the crowd parted slightly, revealing a clearer view of Mia, who was still crouched but now looked more like a marionette, controlled by strings of darkness. The eerie glow cast her in a pearly sheen, highlighting those unnaturally sharp teeth gleaming in the dimness. "Mama." Mia's voice carried an edge now, almost sultry, enough to chill Rebecca's blood. "You should try it. You'll want to stay too." "Mia, no!" The desperation swelled within her, rendering her voice almost a whisper. "That's not you." Yet the shadows whispered louder, drowning out her words. The laughter ebbed and flowed, a dreadful tide swallowing hope. Each titter twisted, deformed, encircling Rebecca like a noose ready to snap. As the chanting crescendoed, the flickering lights dimmed to near darkness, and then the glimmer returned, revealing figures cloaked in shadow, bodies twisting in ways that defied nature. Rebecca could feel them closing in, their touch icy against her skin, urging her to join them. "Choose, Rebecca." The demand was slick and oily, sliding through her defenses. Panic surged to the surface. She remembered the whisper she'd heard before. "What will you sacrifice?" The choice weighed heavily on her, an anchor threatening to drag her down. Would she trade her soul for her daughters? Or would Mia forever be lost to this festivity of horrors? "Mama." It was a murmur now, less like a plea and more like a taunt. The flicker of recognition was nearly gone. From those eyes, darkness enveloping the last threads of the little girl Rebecca knew. Then, from the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of something, an opening in the crowd, a narrow path. Could it lead her back to the light? Could she pull Mia from the depths of this horrific void? With newfound determination, she pushed toward that sliver of hope, weaving through the throng of tormentors, feeling their icy anger boiling around her, desperate fingers reaching for her hair, her clothes, anything. "Help me, Mia!" she screamed, the words clawing their way out. "Please, fight it!" Just as she was close enough to pull her daughter from the edge, Mia lunged toward her, the darkness swirling like a tempest behind her. "No, play with us! It's so much fun!" And in that moment, as her daughter's hand reached out, it wasn't the soft, familiar touch she craved. It felt wrong, more like a cold, unyielding vice. The final shadows thrashed, wild and frenzied. As they eclipsed Rebecca's vision, shrouding her in ghostly abandon, the crowd howled, chanting her fate louder now. "What will you sacrifice?" "Mama, help me!" And in that searing, heart-stopping moment, everything went black. What would become of her now? Was there still a way out? Would hope flicker back to life? Or was it truly over? Rebecca floated in darkness, the void closing in around her like a shroud. Frigid fingers grazed her skin, pulling her deeper into the abyss, away from sound, away from light. Panic surged, a gnashing beast clawing at her insides. Where was Mia? The thought echoed louder than anything else, filling her with dread. In the darkness, ghosts of laughter brushed past her, and she could hear snippets of just how joyous it all seemed to them. "Join us! Don't resist!" Their voices melted together, an unsettling choir of temptation. The warm glow of her daughter's joy had twisted into a sharp blade, cutting through whatever resolve remained. "Mama," Mia's voice returned, distant yet piercing. "Come play with us. You'll like it." A wave of nausea hit Rebecca, her stomach churning violently as she fought the urge to succumb. Something lurked beneath the surface of her mind, whispering promises of peace, of unending happiness. But if she indulged, she knew the cost. She'd lose Mia, lose herself. Desperation tightened its grip. "Mia, please listen to me. You have to fight." As if in response, a surge of black tendrils slithered toward her, hungry and eager, grasping for her limbs, pulling her into their twisted embrace. Rebecca thrashed against them, but they only tightened their grip, a vice around her psyche. "Your daughter is happy," one of the voices proclaimed with a sickening glee. "She's found her place. Are you so selfish?" Selfish? It was a thought that clawed at her heart. Was it truly selfish to want her daughter back? "Mama, help me!" The despair in Mia's voice shattered her resolve. Every fiber of Rebecca's being screamed as she felt her daughter slipping away, drowning the dark contagion that had claimed so many. Just then, a flicker broke through the remnants of swirling shadows. A pulse of light surged, pushing against the darkness, igniting a small spark of hope. She could see it, a vague outline of Mia, eerily illuminated by a phosphorescent glow. The shadows recoiled. "Mia, in the name of everything, please, come back to me!" Mia hesitated, her face a mask of uncertainty, half caught in the pull of joyous shadows. "Mama, it's so fun here," she whispered, pleadingly, as if Rebecca were the one lost, not her. "No, it's not you!" Rebecca's heart raced, blood pounding in her ears. "My baby, remember!" She struggled to find a memory, any recollection that would anchor Mia back to the girl she used to be. "We had so many adventures, remember? The swings at the park? The picnics? Please!" The flickering light advanced, crawling closer like a breath of fresh air. For a moment, she caught a glimmer of recognition in her daughter's eyes, a flicker of the girl who loved to play in the sun. "Mama!" But as soon as that spark ignited, it waned, shadows reeling back in, engulfing Mia once again. "They want me, Mom!" In that critical moment, without thinking, Rebecca lunged forward, feeling the oppressive weight of every shadow trying to pull her back. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the remnants of Mia's warmth. "I'll do anything! I'll trade anything for you!" The shadows recoiled slightly, as if in consideration. The laughter faltered, and in that breath of silence, Rebecca felt the weight of her utterance crash against the fabric of reality. "Anything, you say?" A new voice, layered like 1,000 whispers, emerged from the fold of darkness. Rebecca's heart seized. "What will you give for her, Rebecca?" It was a sinister proposition, suffocating her with dread. The abyss loomed larger, ready to swallow her whole. "Tell me." As the shadows swirled in amusement, an answer hovered just out of reach. What could she sacrifice? Time seemed to stretch out as the figures circled, their forms shifting, ready to consume. "Mama!" Their voices joined in a chaotic symphony, amplifying the stakes. Could Rebecca survive to save Mia, or would she find herself trapped forever in this realm of horrors? A choice loomed above her, blacker than the shadows that clung to her like a second skin. The crowd could sense her hesitation, and with it the tension escalated. What horrors awaited her at the crossroads of love and despair? Would she know what to give when the moment came? The air thickened, and Rebecca's heart raced. Time was running out, and she stood on the precipice of sacrifice. What would she do? The atmosphere grew heavier, thick with dread and anticipation. Tendrils of shadow coiled tighter around Rebecca as she felt the weight of the question pressing down on her, smothering clarity. What could she give? What did they want? The chorus of voices escalated, sharpening into a cacophony of mockery and seduction. "Give your heart," they breathed, their malice dripping like poison. "Give your soul." Rebecca's breath came in harsh gasps, overwhelmed by the sheer darkness surrounding her. It squeezed her ribcage like a vice, relentless and suffocating. She had come to this place to rescue Mia, not to bargain with its tormentors. Instinct screamed for her to leave, to flee, but where would she go? The shadows had turned the path behind her into a swirling sea of night, ready to drag her under. "Mama!" Mia's voice echoed, cracking through the chaos. "You said you'd do anything. This isn't what I meant." Panic surged like fire within her chest. What will they take? Suddenly, the shadows shifted, twisting into a grotesque figure that stepped forward. It wore Mia's face, but with a flickering quality, like a broken projection. "They say life is just a game, and you're losing." It laughed softly, a sound that was not quite genuine, the edges curling in malice. "Wouldn't you rather be with me forever?" Rebecca staggered back, the blood draining from her face. The semblance of her daughter turned monstrous, the laughter now echoing like a death knell in her ears. She felt the memories flood back, Mia's first steps, her laughter, the times they had shared. "Then they'll take you as well," the figure taunted, elongating its fingers into cruel twists, reaching toward Rebecca. "Forever in darkness." "No!" Rebecca yelled, arms flailing in instinctive defiance. "I'll find another way." The aura of dread intensified, shadows swirling violently as though reacting to her resolve. Voices clamored and howled with disapproval, thickening the air around her. What if you had no choice? What if you had to choose between her and yourself? It was a question that cut deep. Bile rose in her throat. Images crashed through her mind, Mia glowing with laughter, innocent and pure, but now shrouded in a sinister fog. "You twisted things!" she spat, rage surging within her, an ember, a tether to reality. Another voice broke through the tumult. "Remember, Rebecca, it's always your fault. You didn't safeguard her." "What do you want from me?" she cried, teetering on the brink. Despair washed over her like icy water. "I've already lost so much!" "I want everything," the darkness whispered, ominous and silky. The tendrils writhed, awaiting her decision, a dark banquet. Time stretched as Rebecca grappled with the shadows closing in. Each heartbeat pounded not just for her, but for Mia. Desperation filled the space where hope once resided, and an icy calm began to settle over her heart. She realized she could not give up either of them, but something vital had to be sacrificed. "No!" Rebecca exclaimed, shaking her head furiously. "You won't take her without a fight!" With that, a surge of defiance flowed through her, igniting that flicker of light again, rekindling her spirit against the encroaching darkness. "Mama, please!" Mia's voice trembled, wafting through the amalgamation of shadow and laughter. The flickering figure flickered darker in response. As though instigated by her resolve, tension crackled in the air. The shadows rippled in chaos, coiling around Rebecca until she could barely breathe. Each inky tendril whispered sordid encouragements meant to distract her. The darkness pulsed violently, as though driven by a hunger for destruction. "Choose now, Rebecca, or lose everything." Focus sharpened. The panic receded like a fading echo, replaced by a crystal-clear resolve. She was not just fighting for herself, but for her daughter. Each heartbeat thudded against the impending doom. Desperation froze her breath in her throat as she pondered what sacrifice would satiate the insatiable black. The abyss chortled, eagerly waiting as uncertainty clawed at her mind, making her second-guess the very foundation of motherhood itself. But there was one haunting question left unasked. Would Rebecca unearth an answer, one that would save them both, or doom them into the depths of eternal night? As shadows howled and malevolent whispers intensified, the moment for a decision approached, closing like a vice around her heart. Could she summon the strength to reclaim her daughter from this cursed chasm, or would she heed the darkness that beckoned with promises sweeter than salvation? Suddenly, a grim silence fell over the cacophony, a horrible pause that suffocated the desperate thoughts racing through Rebecca's mind. The darkness seemed to be waiting, biding its time. She could feel every heartbeat echoing, each thud drowning out the malicious whispers. The flickering image of Mia pulled closer, her twisted smile reflecting a fractured sense of innocence. "Mama." The voice transformed, morphing from sweetness into something syrupy and venomous. "You know the answer. You just have to give it up." "No!" Rebecca's voice trembled, rising above the shadows, yet her resistance felt futile against the inexorable tide. Panic surged, mixing with the suffocating dread. "I won't choose. I refuse to decide." But the darkness just responded with a low, mocking chuckle. "Refusal is not an option when fate demands a reckoning." She felt the shadows lurch forward, tentacles of black creeping closer, their coldness licking at her skin like icy breath. The oppression was a tangible weight pressing down on her shoulders. Would she sell her soul to save Mia? Would that even work? Would the darkness keep its promise? Or even worse, what if it didn't? Mia's figure twisted, morphing rapidly. Now it appeared to weep, crab-like fingers reaching imploringly toward Rebecca. "You don't really have a choice, do you? I can be saved, but you have to be willing to lose something, something precious." Navigating through the fog of despair, Rebecca remembered the first time she'd held Mia, the first time her daughter spoke her name. A hot, shrunken feeling clawed at her heart, both wonderful and terrifying. "No, I can't. You're all I have." But the more she rejected those chilling truths, the more the shadows writhed, hungry for her turmoil. "Do you not love her enough to sacrifice, to pay the price for your only joy?" They echoed, surrounding her, distorting her reality. "Think of your freedom from this cursed life." Each syllable, she felt the weight pressing down harder. Was her love worth so much pain? That guileful temptation settled deep in her gut, twisting like a knife. "Mama!" The voice cut through the dark, sharp and clear again. "I don't want you to suffer. Just trust me." In that instant, Rebecca's instinct kicked in. She closed her eyes, summoning a memory of Mia. Laughter echoing in sunlit parks, sticky fingers on ice cream cones, the soft warmth of bedtime stories. It was all she had left. "Enough!" she screamed, feeling raw power surge through her. "I will not let you take her." The shadows shrieked in violent disapproval, convulsing around her, an angry storm of indistinct shapes and voices. Everything trembled in the darkness, the air thick with anticipation and dread. The ground under her feet felt unstable, swallowing her resolve even as she stood steady. And then an uneasy quiet returned, as if the very essence of darkness recoiled, momentarily disarmed. "What if you lose everything?" A voice whispered, now softer, more seducing. "What if the price you refuse to pay is the only thing to save her? Are you ready to bear that burden? The void is calling." Rebecca opened her eyes slowly, each flutter feeling like a chasm. Was there another option? Was there something else she hadn't considered? Before she could answer, an unnatural light flickered in the distance, slicing through the shadows. It pulsed gently, beckoning. Her heart raced. It felt like hope, yet had a sinister quality. "What is that?" she murmured, inching forward despite herself, each step unstoppable. "Mama, wait!" Mia's voice shrieked, slicing through the air like a knife. "Don't go to the light. It's a trick." The call of the light was soothing. It promised safety, warmth, the end to the chaos. But Rebecca hesitated. Could she trust what it offered? Or would it plunge her deeper into that endless void, trapping them both? One final choice lay before her. A step toward light or darkness? Which path would she take? The silence hummed, pregnant with tension, demanding an answer. What would Rebecca discover when she followed the flicker into the unknown? Would it lead to salvation, or would she find a trap set by the very fiends she fought against? Rebecca hesitated, her breath freezing in her throat. The pulsating light flickered like a heartbeat, pulling her closer, promising refuge. She felt the pull of that warmth, but shadows whispered doubt. "Mama, please!" The desperation in Mia's voice was sharp, a jagged edge on a fraying line. "If you go, I may lose you forever." Torn between two worlds, Rebecca's heart raced. The shimmering light seemed so inviting, so close to the memories of joy. But it felt wrong, like a serpent laced with sweetness. She stepped forward cautiously, mind reeling. Could she risk everything for a glimmer of hope? "Mama, don't!" Mia's voice cracked, spiraling into a wail of anguish that reverberated through the darkness. That sound clawed at Rebecca's insides, mingling with the shadows that swirled hungrily around her. She felt the darkness hungry beneath her feet, swirling like murky water, seeking to drown her. "What if it's a lie?" Rebecca whispered, glancing back at Mia's shadowy figure. "What if I lose you anyway?" The light flickered again, glowing with an eerie allure. It shifted, dancing almost, as if alive. Footsteps behind her grew louder, the shadows pressing in closer, growling like hungry beasts. They craved her fear, smelled her hesitation. "Walk away!" Mia shouted, urgency spilling from every word. "You don't know what you'll find." In that moment, the air shimmered. The light shifted as if it responded to her agony. "You can save her. Embrace me," it pleaded, its voice caressing her mind. "What you've always wanted lies within reach. Come to me." Rebecca clenched her fists, feeling a violent pulse of fear. The tickle of madness rushed through her. What if the light was a solution? What if Mia was wrong? The urge grew, to run toward the light and shield Mia. Another wave of shadows lunged, clawing at her. Their whispers intensified, hissing their dark promises, tempting her with promises of safety from this cursed life. The pressure increased, squeezing, suffocating. She could smell the musty scent of fear rising. "Choose," the darkness bellowed. "Choose before it consumes you whole." With a sharp intake of breath, she pushed forward, ready to leap into the light, when a sudden chill wrapped around her arms, holding her back. Tendrils of shadow coiled tight, rooting her to the ground, and she felt dread crawl down her spine. "Mama!" Mia's voice shattered, filled with raw panic. "Don't trust it!" Rebecca's heart pounded, each beat a countdown. The shadows thrashed, irritably entangling her, but somewhere deep within, a flicker of resolve ignited. "Not yet," she whispered fiercely, eyes darting between the light and Mia. It meant everything to her. Mia was her world. In that moment of clarity, Rebecca pulled away forcefully from the light. "No, I won't be fooled," she shouted, flinging herself backward into the murk. The shadows roared with fury, converging. The world around her cracked like glass. Darkness shattered, revealing familiar things. Her old home, the park where they laughed, memories spilling forth like rain. But they came haunted, twisted into grotesque forms, mocking her decisions. "Mama, you have to get out!" Mia screamed, fear vibrating her voice, echoing deep in the chilling air. A thundering crash echoed. The house that flickered in the shadows shook violently, the voices of lost souls clashing, a cacophony of despair. The light flickered, pulsing angrily, demanding her return. Rebecca felt her spine tingle as the walls around her trembled and warped. Every whisper turned malevolent, a chilling reminder of the darkness lurking within. Fear surged anew, igniting adrenaline like fire in her veins. "Now choose," the shadows hissed, shadows reaching, urging. Would she break under the weight of centuries of horror, or find the strength to confront what came next? And just then, she sensed an even darker truth lurking beneath the surface, deeper than she'd ever expected. What was it that the shadows truly wanted from her? She turned to Mia. "We have to face this together," she said, squeezing her eyes shut against the rising tide of fear. "Whatever it takes." The shadows shuddered, echoing with a bone-chilling laugh. "Oh, you're not ready for that," they whispered, trailing off into sinister glee. A terrible crescendo built, echoing around her, each note laden with dread. Rebecca steeled herself against the chaos, knowing that the true terror was just beginning. In a moment, everything could change. Would they be swallowed whole, or could they fight the darkness together? The answer hung in the gloom, pregnant with uncertainty, waiting for her to take action. What happens when Rebecca finally confronts the darkness? Will they become what it craves, or can a glimmer of hope pierce the suffocating veil of despair? The shrill laughter of the shadows echoed, reverberating off walls that seemed to close in on Rebecca and Mia. Each pulse of sound sent a crawling sensation down Rebecca's spine. She gripped Mia's hand tightly, their fingers intertwining like roots in the dark earth, anchoring them against the rising tide of malevolence. "Mama, please," Mia pleaded, her wide eyes glimmering with unshed tears. The chilling air around them felt thick and stifling, pressing down, as if the darkness itself sought to crush their spirits. Rebecca held her daughter's gaze, gathering every bit of strength. "We can't let it win," she whispered, though uncertainty gnawed at her heart. The shadows whispered temptations, deceitful sweet promises slithering into her ears like poisonous snakes. "What do you want from me?" Rebecca shouted into the suffocating dark. Silence greeted her, a pause that stretched infinitely, heavy and foreboding. Memories clawed at her mind, the echoes of laughter now twisted into cries of despair. Suddenly, one of the shadows lunged, its form undulating like smoke, reaching for Mia. "Your daughter is a useless burden. Save yourself," it hissed, venom dripping from its words. The sound made Rebecca's stomach churn, fear squeezing her heart mercilessly. "Get away from her!" Rebecca screamed, shoving Mia behind her. The shadow shattered into a flurry of dark mist, reforming into a grotesque visage that mimicked her worst fears. It grinned, a warped reflection of her own face. "Mama," Mia's voice trembled. "I'm here. I won't let it take you." Rebecca steadied herself, feeling the strength of her love for her daughter burning in her chest, a beacon amidst the engulfing dark. The light pulsed in rhythmic defiance, swirling and wrapping around Rebecca, urging her to join it. "You can save her. Leave this place and embrace freedom," it called, its seductive voice smooth and enticing. She could feel its warmth, the way it beckoned her with a familiar embrace. But doubt gnawed at her once more. What if it's just a trick, she thought, recalling the countless lies her own mind had whispered in moments of despair. "No, no, it's not true." She shook her head violently, gripping Mia's hand. "Hand tighter. We'll stay together, always." With every ounce of resolve, she stepped further into the depths of the shadows, where fear and darkness pressed in like a vice. "Face us!" she demanded, heart racing, desperation mixing with defiance. "You won't take her!" The shadows swelled in response, their cold laughter booming around them, the sound like nails on a chalkboard. "Oh, the girl holds the key. If we take her, you will have no choice but to submit." The words struck like a dagger. The room pulsed violently, the walls swirling like a tempest, memories cascading like leaves in a storm. Rebecca dropped to her knees, pulling Mia close, desolation seeping into her heart. "Mama, please, don't give in." Mia's voice was a fragile tether as she clung to her mother. Rebecca's world fractured again, teasing glimpses of a life stolen by darkness. "No!" she yelled, the refusal bursting forth from her. "I will fight. For you, for us." The shadows recoiled, bending away from her intensified will. The warm light flickered, beckoning her to reach out. "Hold tight, let me consume your fear," it implored, coiling like a serpent eager to devour what it desired. "Just a little closer." It was a whisper, seductive and rich, promising everything she'd ever dreamed. But from the corners of her mind, another thought emerged, curling tightly around her heart. What if this light betrays us? The cacophony of shadows grew louder, angry roars filling the air, drowning out her hope. With each beat of her heart, the pulse of the light intensified, desperate to guide her away from the encroaching darkness. "Choose now. Which side will you embrace?" It throbbed, alive with energy. Rebecca's pulse thundered in her ears. She could feel the stakes rising higher, a shuddering breath caught in her throat. Bile rose as she contemplated the truth. All her choices had led them here. "Mama!" Mia's plea quivered, barely breaking through the storm. With a final surge of determination, Rebecca tore herself from the light's intoxicating pull. "No, not yet!" The shadows howled in fury, a wild swirl erupting around them. The world spun. She clutched Mia tight, praying against the darkness that threatened to engulf them. And just then, in the shadow's fury, a shape emerged from the void, something darker than she had ever imagined, ready to claim them both. Could they truly confront the source of their terror? Or would this nightmare consume them utterly? "Rebecca, fight it!" That voice pulled her back, a lifeline in the storm. She felt Mia's small hand tremble within her grasp, a tether holding them together against the night. The shadows loomed, monstrous and seething, swirling with ancient malice that whispered their dark demands. "Join us!" they screamed. "We will take her, and you will join our eternal dance." Rebecca, heart pounding, felt fury burning in her chest. "You won't take her. You'll never have her." She could almost taste their putrid promises, but she wouldn't yield. Not now, not ever. That resolve surged. Like a boiling river, pushing aside the suffocating dread threatening to drown her. The laughter morphed into a sinister growl, tightening around her throat. "But you're already losing! You have no power here!" it taunted, eerily echoing her deepest fears. Suddenly, a surge of memories washed over Rebecca. Sunny days at the park, silly puppet shows, and bedtime stories where Mia's laughter danced in the air like fireflies. Those minutes flickered in her mind, bright and pure, like a beacon through the suffocating dark. "I won't give in," she shouted, realizing the truth that anchored her. "My love for her is more powerful than any darkness." "Mama, I can't hold on much longer," Mia cried, her voice trembling with palpable terror. Rebecca tightened her grip, letting that warmth spread through her like sunlight breaking through clouds. "We are stronger than this," she affirmed with every ounce of conviction. With a guttural roar, the shadows convulsed, revealing an ancient, sinister figure in their midst, an embodiment of the darkness they had faced, wearing Mia's face but suffused with pure malice. "You are weak," it sneered. "What will you sacrifice?" "I'll sacrifice nothing," Rebecca shouted back. "I will fight until the end." The malevolent figure lunged forward, its form twisting and thrashing like a tempest. Just then, Rebecca envisioned it, every tiny fragment of her hope colliding into a roadblock conjured like a shield. She took a fierce step forward, anchoring herself in the moment and projecting that energy into the abyss. "You are nothing," she bellowed, echoing that belief into the heart of the darkness. "You can't take what you haven't earned. You will not take her from me." The shadows recoiled. For a moment, a flash of uncertainty glimmered across their ghastly forms. Rebecca's heart raced. She lunged toward Mia, pulling her daughter close, feeling the echo of their shared love pulse through them both. "Together!" she screamed, a battle cry against the emptiness that surrounded them. In that instant, glimmers of light burst through the shroud of darkness, fractures growing in the murky fog, illuminating their path. The Sinister shrieked, its face twisting in rage. "You can't stop it! You can't stop me!" But with Mia at her side, Rebecca felt unyielding. They recited their bond in unison, words spiraling out like a flickering flame. The shadows writhed, swirling with furious abandon, but with each syllable echoing from their hearts, the shadows weakened. Light brings life. Love conquers fear. And then, with one final united chant, the dense dark convulsed, screaming in protest. Each twisted shadow disintegrated, sucked into the unyielding core of light they had built together. The figure roared, collapsing into itself as brightness washed over them like a wave, illuminating the suffocating grips of night. In the aftermath, everything felt almost too quiet. As the dust settled, the air lightened. Rebecca opened her eyes to find herself standing in the vibrant light amidst the remnants of the festival, normal again. They were back at the park, sunlight streaming down through the trees. Songs of laughter ringing sweetly in the air. "Mama?" Mia whispered, her eyes wide and glimmering with recognition and relief. Rebecca dropped to her knees, enveloping her daughter in a fierce embrace. I'm here, baby." The warmth of their love wrapped around them, shielding them from the memories of darkness that threatened to linger. A chuckle broke through, then another, swelling, melding, shifting from sinister echoes to soft, happy sounds of children playing nearby. The sun pierced through the trees, bathing them in warmth that felt like a soft hug. "Mama, we did it!" Mia grinned, her laughter now brimming with innocence. Rebecca, holding her daughter close, felt pain give way to joy. They had emerged, not unscathed, but blooming from the ashes of their struggle. "Yes, my love, we did." As they walked hand in hand, the laughter of the festival surrounded them, light restoring balance to the world. They'd faced the darkness and emerged stronger, illuminated by love and hope. This was the moment where every struggle and sacrifice coalesced into a promise of brighter days ahead, where shadows dared not creep. Together, they would always shine. Now, as the memories remained clutched in their hearts, Rebecca knew they could face whatever came next, hand in hand, fortified against the dark. But before you depart, it's time to take action. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the thrilling new stories coming soon. Smash that like button now to let us know that you support us and help keep the algorithms buzzing. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. We want to know what you think. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this epic conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of showing their support through these actions. Let's keep this community alive and thriving.